Good morning here in Toronto, and probably good afternoon where you are, or good night somewhere else around the world. Welcome to another episode of MusiCafe. I'm glad that you're here today. I want to start by saying today that I am the least qualified in the world to be editorializing any kind of material, but I have to say that the events of this tumultuous week has left us really stunned and saddened. I'm especially saddened because we started this company to bring joy to everyone. That's what music does, at least to me, and to those close to me. And that's why we started doing this. I am privileged to live in a country and a city where we have multiculturalism everywhere. I'm privileged and honored to work side by side with people from all colors, all religions, all ages, genders, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished and what we've done. There is no place for hate in the world, especially in a time that we're all threatened by a virus, a thing that we can't even see. It saddens me very, very much to see what goes on. And I'm happy to see that people all over the world get on their feet, they rise up, and they make their voices be heard. We live in a complicated world, in a complicated society, and where there is a lack of leadership and a void and a vacuum of leadership, people will get up and will do what's right. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
A partir do Ovídio, a partir de um trecho do 10º canto das Metamorfoses, com a fábula importante, a lenda do Pigmalião, que narra a história desse sujeito que se esculpe uma estátua e se apaixona por essa estátua. A ideia, a partir desse emblema maravilhoso da cultura ocidental, né, que é, de algum modo, uma metáfora do artista, a metáfora do criador, a metáfora de tudo. E no caso, de uma maneira um pouco perversa, ele se apaixona tanto que ele decide torná-la sua esposa e, de algum modo, negar todas as outras mulheres da cidade. Vamos ver daí, então?
Um antes, 95?
Vamos fazer dois antes. Vai. Partindo da Metamorfoses, a gente abriu um espaço na narrativa do Ovídio e fazendo o que eu acho que acontece pela primeira vez na história das narrativas sobre o Pigmalião, dando protagonismo à estátua.
E que faz ecoar dilacerando sem que ouças meu peito de pedra.
So, I am incredibly excited again today to have a great friend of mine joining us from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I want to welcome Leandro Oliveira. Leandro, bem-vindo aqui ao MusiCafe. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Alex. I'm very, very happy for the invitation. It's a pleasure, it's my pleasure to be with you in Toronto, even though we are I'm in Brazil and you're there, but the technology has this kind of magic, and then we can meet. This is very, very happy for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Leandro, you're not only a friend again, but an incredible character, if I may say that. You are a musician, a composer, a conductor, a professor in music, and you recently got a doctorate in streaming for classical music. So you do basically everything. Tell me, I always start with this question: how does a little kid in Rio de Janeiro, where you were born, ends up in classical music?
That's a difficult answer, I must say, because my family was not particularly musical. Actually, it was not musical at all. My father is an engineer, my mother is a housewife, and I don't know why. Between 7 and 8 years, I've been introduced to the piano. There was a piano teacher at my building, in an apartment quite near ours. So then I started, but I realized I would be a musician when I've got 16 or 17 years old, and then I realized, I have nothing to do as professional. I don't know what can I do, but I play piano. That can be funny, and okay, let's be a musician. Then I started to study, actually, in a more disciplinary way, and I think I was sort of naive at that point, thinking I could be Maurizio Pollini, studying 3 years after actually begin do it for real. But when I have 20 years old, I had the opportunity to go to Italy, and that was better for me. Actually, I found a milieu more realistic, and I began my study in composition and conducting. And when I came back to Brazil, I was invited to join OSESP, the Orquestra Sinfônica do Estado de São Paulo, which were my first job. And then I started. I have 25 years old at that point, and then I started to understand about music and day by day work. That was great. That was actually it was very lucky for me. I have a good environment to build myself.
What's more fun? I mean, you do a variety of things. The first time we met, you were giving a lesson exactly at OSESP. Yeah, before every symphony or before every performance, you give an introduction of what's about to happen, what people are going to see. What do you enjoy most? Teaching? Do you like playing? We saw a clip of you conducting and directing your own opera, which you also composed. So what's most fun for you?
I have this incredibly opportunity to see myself energized after each work I do, which is actually a luck for me. I can teach, and I do it weekly when the season is going on. Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I introduce the concert. I have this pre-concert lecture opportunities, so I can lecture about the program. And sometimes I'm kind of, I can't be said depressed, but I'm kind of alone or thinking about life and all this stuff. And then I came there, and I finished the class better. I feel galvanized and feel really in my feet. It's very, very interesting. Weekly basis work. It's a very interesting job, actually. But my creativity, my creative mind is always searching for something. And I think besides this, which I deal as a performance, my lecturing is a performance. Besides it, with all the research I have to do, I think I need sometimes, and it's not that pleasant, I must say. Compose and conducting is not that pleasant. In a way, I have to think a lot. I have to calculate a lot. But there is some kind of, as I've been saying, some kind of creative mind, creative spirit that feels okay in that place. So what I do actually, I reserve 1 hour a day for composing and listening and criticizing music, so I can have the fun of teaching and the other, and all the whole day long. But it's I don't know, I think it's sort of, I'm addicted to composing. It's not very pleasant anymore, but I have to do it. It's something that you must do it.
So
It's
how long?
addiction. It's a drug. I don't know.
How long do you study a day, not in composition, but actually studying music in general? Because I've seen you not only teaching at OCESP, 3 times a week. You go to Belo Horizonte with the orchestra there of Minas Gerais. You also teach sometimes there.
Yeah.
You have your private classes. I've been to some of the classes that day. A lot of people get together and listen to you speaking about whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
How much time do you have to spend preparing for this?
That's it depends on the subject. Actually, I have, after 12 years teaching in this weekly basis, I must say the most part of the research, I mean the structure of the classes, they are actually it is already mapped, as I say, already organized. What I try to do every new class is to find the most appealing ideas or concepts, or actually the contemporary, a more contemporary way of dealing with it and telling it to people. So I try to reserve 2 hours before each class, 2 hours before each class to prepare it. It's enough at this time. Sometimes, I have this Electra. I did to Teatro Municipal here in São Paulo, a huge conference to Electra, which is an opera from Richard Strauss. And it was very hard because I would like to prepare it with some kind of detail. I would like to play it somehow to show some usurps, and that was harsh. I spent actually 1 month preparing the lecture. It was more workful, but now I can say for 2 or 3 hours I can prepare 1 hour lecture. I can deal with it. My first concern now is try to engage people with classical music, which is not easy. Mm-hmm. Because talking, if we are sightseeing a city, it can be okay. So here's Beethoven. That's the first thing. That's C major, and then we go to development. All this technical stuff. I don't think it is. It's not warm for people who doesn't know music. And as I try to be as broad as I can, to talk to the most for a huge audience, I try to invite. I have some students that are lawyers, other are I don't know,
doctors,
architects, and doctors, and writers, and and movie makers, producers, and have to talk to people and tell them classical music is not something so, so intellectual and demanding, first. And second, if you take your time to listen to it, you can enjoy and you can really be nurtured. And that is a very challenging way of preparing the classes, because you have to find the point in, I don't know, Shostakovich Fifth Symphony or Tchaikovsky First, the point where it relates to people, where it engages somehow. That's the most trouble, the most challenging.
Probably one of the most famous pieces of work is the Beethoven Fifth. It's hard to find somebody who has never heard Beethoven Fifth, but the first time I heard it live, which is an experience, was with you in Brazil. And I remember I went to the class and you said, listen carefully, because the first note of Beethoven is actually a silence. There's no note. The first note is like everybody's completely quiet. I was taking, I always thought, why is the conductor doing, and there's no note.
This movement.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember you said, it's not that there's no note. It's for you to prepare for what's coming. It was very, very, right there. It was like, I didn't know that. And if you listen to it, you see it, you feel it. There's a note preparing you for what's to come. How big it is. We would say the majestuosidade of the what we're about to hear.
Absolutely.
It was fantastic. Now that you touched on the topic that I really wanted to get into, which is it's very hard for people to get into classical music. It takes time, not a lot of dedication. You just need to go to the right piece of work and start enjoying the music. We live in a time that is very, very complicated right now to do concerts and whatnot. You did a doctorate in streaming. Do you think that this is the solution to the problems in classical music?
I'm quite sure it is. I would not say it's a solution the way that public concerts will always be something needed. And I must say, after all this period here, we are at home in São Paulo in Brazil as much as we can, and everything we want is go to a concert hall and then drink with somebody and hug my friends and find the musicians and listen it live. But at the same time, I think it is both for the public and for the institutions. We have in streaming and this procedure of being online and being available besides the hall. It's a way for being connected to the community, actually. That São Paulo is a huge city as Toronto, and I think it's as New York, and it's
way bigger than Toronto.
It's okay, but anyway, it's not always easy to go to the concert at the scheduled time, and sometimes you can have a very good experience in your home, listening in your TV for Toronto Symphony or OZESP. It is possible. And otherwise, on the other hand, we have this opportunity for institutions, musical institutions, to escalate. As I don't know if I can say it, but you have another scale of if you have money for one concert, you can do it with this concert. A lot of products. You can do it an online product. You can do it archive product. and it could be sold for sponsors or for the public. They can buy tickets. There's another economy which goes on online, and I think it's very very interesting. Actually, I'm not this kind of critic who feels that live concerts must be always the better concerts are better in live experience. You know, sometimes, and actually I had the opportunity to listen Berliner Philharmonic 2 weeks ago, and it was quite amazing because, you know, the hall was empty, and
Yep.
they are streaming a very beautiful program, and I felt privileged to be part of it. You know, I was here in São Paulo. I was, you know, dealing with all the stuff, and I was actually connected with the guys there in Berlin, and I don't think it was a minor experience at all. I do not feel it diminished. Actually I cried. I mean, it was very moving, very powerful experience. So I think it is a sort of, there is a lot of room for institutions to explore the streaming opportunities, and I think for the public it will be always. Actually, I think the streaming will improve. A lot of things that are done now are badly done, and they will improve this kind of logistics. Will be better. The grammatic, the artistic streaming will be more beautiful. And I think this engagement can be very very powerful for the public. But let's see. It's my
Tell me,
feelings. I don't know.
tell me something. I was talking to Simone Menezes last week, and I told her that Brazil and music is a, you know, Brazil is a culture. Like music is part of the Brazilian culture. It's very hard to talk about Brazil without talking about music, but most people will say, you know, Tom Jobim is the first thing that comes to mind, or samba, or bossa nova. We were talking about that. Very few people think in the first instance, you know, classical music, Brazil, and yet classical music is really ingrained in Brazil. You have one of the most important opera festivals in the world is in Manaus. You got fantastic orchestras. You know, Rio de Janeiro has fantastic, two different orchestras. Sao Paulo has a number of orchestras that I don't know how many. Every time I count them, I'm missing one. You know, you have, of course, of CESP, you have Teatro Municipal, which has its own orchestra and opera company, Teatro São Pedro. There's Orquestra Jovem do Estado de São Paulo. What else? Jazz Sinfônica, which is a symphonic orchestra playing jazz numbers and more Brazilian. Why is it that...
ZUSP from the university, yeah.
So many orchestras. Why is it that around the world we know very little about Brazilian classical music?
That's a wonderful question, Alex, and I thank you for asking that. Actually, I think it is. We have a lot of music. Brazil is we have bossa nova. We have, before bossa nova, we have samba, and we have Villa Lobos. We have a lot of, for this soft power. If we talk about soft power, in Brazil, there is music and there is football, soccer, and
football is football.
It's a sort of football. Yeah.
Football is football. It's not.
Yeah, I don't know, soccer. I don't know.
Exactly.
But anyway, we have Ronaldinho and these people there. Anyway. somehow what we find in classical music is a sort of non-market, there is no economy on classical music here. So what happens is we need a lot of sponsorship investment from the government, or maybe from we have some private sponsors that with special protocols to give money there. But anyway, I think it makes Brazil a sort of we have the Brazilian institutions in classical music very protected from this drive that I think market gives. I think we this very well protected institutions, they can do whatever they do, and sometimes they do it quite well. But we have not, in artistic level, we have not this this entrepreneurship behavior. So I think when we find the first well-structured orchestra in Brazil was a ZESP. I mean, in modern structure, which dates 1999. So what we saw is we have there a lot of we have very good recordings from international labels as Biz and Naxos. We have also very important conductors and soloists, and now we have this small center of excellence here. But we do not make it work as a radiator of excellence. It's OSESP in São Paulo, which is a huge city, and then we have Filarmônica de Minas in Belo Horizonte, which is another huge state in Minas Gerais, and they work very well, but they do not make a movement which feedback each other with soloists and musicians and composers and all this stuff.
But I find it,
I don't know.
I don't want to say disappointing, but you have the orchestras in Rio de Janeiro. You have OSESP, which, it's funny, every time I mention OSESP, I say it's one of the top orchestras in the world. I really love going to Sala Sao Paulo, because first of all, it's one of the nicest in the world. I mean, I've been to many concert halls in the world, and Sala Sao Paulo has to be at the very top. It's such a beautiful place. But the orchestra, the musicians are so fantastic. But they don't project. They don't. Not that they don't project the music. They don't like to say we're one of the best orchestras in the world, and the reality is they are. They had Marin Alsop as the conductor, musical director, and it got to a level of excellence that the people that don't know anything about music like me decided to make a career out of this. There must be something there. It's
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's like I learned about Villa-Lobos when I was there in Sao Paulo. I remember you interviewed, or you had as a guest in one of your lessons, you had Richard Rimvos, who orchestrated one of Villa-Lobos' works.
Yeah.
So, and they fly this guy from Amsterdam to orchestrate and be there for the premiere. It's like such an amazing thing that's happening, and I feel that we should know more about Brazilian
It's true,
music,
and I feel the
outside of-
same. Yeah, probably. I think probably we are, even though we are in in this globalized world, Brazil is quite far. I don't know, but sometimes I feel it. I feel that we are far from the you know where everything happens. If that we can say about Europe, but actually North America. We did some very good tours in United States. We did some tours in Europe, and actually 2 years ago we went to China also. And the orchestra is always well received. All of the critics are amazing, and we do a quite great job. It's I think the distance plays a role at it. It's a sort of exotic place for an orchestra.
It's true that it's far, but for example, Argentina is just as far, and they have Teatro Colón, which is eminently the South American best theater there. And I was talking to Stefano Poda 2 weeks ago. He's in Uruguay. So there is a little, pocket there of interesting things that should be projected, because the quality, it's really nice, and it's nice to hear, orchestras playing, a little flavor of South America, and especially Brazil. When they play with that, it has something, no? I heard the orchestra de Goiás play in Sao Paulo once, and it was like a very special.
It's true. It's true. There we are. I can talk this way, but I do. There are jewels here in Brazil. These orchestras there that we mentioned. Minas Gerais, São Paulo, Goiás, even USB in Rio, which passed not very, very good moments 2 years ago, and now is taking itself on its feet. Anyway, there are some jewels, and we do, we do classical music, we do Brazilian classical music, and Neil Thompson in Goiás, he's conducting all Claudio Santoro symphonies. Claudio Santoro was a very important composer in Brazil, and he has 9 or 11 symphonies. They are all amazing works, and nobody knows it. And there we are producing it and hoping, like, bottle we throw in the sea, hoping someone
catch it
and enjoys it. Yeah,
it's.
I think someday.
It is amazing. I mean, the combination, and it's probably that, no, the combination of the warmth of the flavor. I remember a few years ago when Simone was conducting the Rotterdam Philharmonic with Vanessa da Mata singing, and Vanessa da Mata, for those
really?
who don't know, Vanessa da Mata is one of the current pop singers, but she does jazz, and it was really amazing. It brings something that I don't know how to explain it. That gives so much to the music, and Jazz Sinfonica, which is classic. It's a mishmash of classical with jazz and samba all together.
It's true.
It's so incredible. They play in Ibirapuera, which is the Central Park of Sao Paulo. It's a fantastic place.
And maybe you heard Vanessa da Mata singing and Simone conducting Brazilian music, but I'm always happy to see also OSESP or Minas Gerais playing, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, and then playing Brazilian classical music. And even Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, and Shostakovich, it's something different and something powerful. I love it. I agree with you completely. It's something different. There is something there. In historically speaking, we have the idea of an orchestra in St. Petersburg, for instance, and another one in Vienna, and another one in Paris, another one in London and New York. Before globalization, each one of these orchestras has its own sound. You know, they sound different, and it's normal to sound different. It's, you know, you can't. The orchestra are very cosmopolitan institution always, but the sound is very different, and there is a not very good side effect of globalization. This kind of homogenization of sound. But here in Brazil, we have still this. We have an orchestra with Russians and Americans and Canadians and Italians from all over the world. But as we work in a way, a part of the center, a part of this market, we find our way of play it, and it's very engaging one. I agree with you. It's very interesting. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they do. You know, I remember a few years ago when the Sal Sao Paulo, for people who have not seen it, it used to be a train station, and it has the magnificent windows and the columns. You know, it's one of those tremendous architectural works that became a concert hall, and they opened one of the windows in some concerts. It was like quite a spectacle. I remember I spoke with Marcelo, who's the executive director.
And the rooftop goes up.
The roof goes up. Yeah. And Arthur Nestrovsky, who's the artistic director of the orchestra, they come up with lighting and some little touches that make everything fantastic. I hope that we'll have Arthur in the next couple of weeks or months. I know he's busy to talk about that. Really exciting little things that make you remember always when you're at Sala Sao Paulo. Leandro, I want to touch one topic where we're running long here on time because it's always we can always talk. That's something we did. Yeah. We're always talking and enjoying coffee together. Unfortunately, so far this time, I want to talk about a special orchestra and a special institute that you have there in Sao Paulo, Heliópolis. Heliópolis, which is located in the center of the favela, which is a shanty town. Not the most pleasant of places in the world. Has an institute of music that is, also a jewel. How did that, and I hope we can get somebody from the Instituto Baccarelli, who hosts the Orchestra of Heliópolis, in a few weeks also.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did that project happen, where little kids that have basically no hope, not anything, become a classical orchestra, and they're really fantastic.
It's miraculous, yeah. It's I think it's due to an effort from a very strong man called Mr. Baccarelli, actually, and he begins it with this idea of giving classical music as a way to entertain people who at this not very pleasant milieu there. They could, after school, they could have spent their time doing something other than talking with drug dealers, and actually music, as you said before, is a very somehow a sort of second nature. We listen music all the time here, and playing instrument, even though it is violin or not very common instrument in Brazil, but became a sort of of fortress, can I say it, for those people. And then, all of a sudden, the institution receives some support, some support from sponsors who saw the
potential,
fruitfulness of this stuff, the potential of this stuff. I think Baccarelli now has more than 10 years, and it is a very, very, very miraculous thing what they do, because they have the School of Music with more than 200 children. They have an orchestra, a student orchestra, and this semi-professional orchestra also, who plays at Sala São Paulo, who plays in Europe sometimes. And from there, we can now see a lot of small initiatives. Initiatives, yeah. As the one in Salvador, there is a very beautiful project there, conducted by Ricardo Castro also, and we can see some of these social projects with music in Northeast and in Manaus, and I think they all came from the experience from Instituto Baccarelli, which is huge. It's also is actually one of the most moving music institution in Brazil at this time.
It's an amazing place. I visited with you once or twice, and
we went there.
It's quite a fantastic place, and some people will refer to it as like something similar to El Sistema, but in Venezuela. But it's definitely not El Sistema. It is
definitely not. Yeah.
It's its own thing that, and I was really taken aback. You go there in the middle of the favela, and there's this amazing place with all the kids with their violins and the cellos, and everything is happening there, and it brings hope to where you think you couldn't find hope. It's a fantastic thing. I hope, you know what, I'm gonna hold you to coming back with us in the next few weeks, and we'll try to get somebody from Instituto Baccarelli and talk to them how they came about. I think we can talk to the director there. It will be very interesting to know what's going on and what's in the future, because it was a fantastic experience for me when I was in Brazil.
My pleasure. I'll be here whenever you call me. I love you there. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you. We've had.
I'm so happy to this talk.
Before we go, we're going to do a plug here, what we call in English a plug, because you just wrote the book that was released, I think, last year.
It's true. Where's my book?
Where's your book? See, I caught you in a surprise. So,
give me a second. Sure.
I want to tell to everybody who listens to these things or that is with us, that I've never seen so many music books as in Leandro's apartment, and he's moved once or twice since I've met him, and the biggest problem that Leandro has is not only to move his piano from one apartment to the next, but also to move all the books, but to move all your books about music.
Absolutely.
And not having enough problems moving the books, you decided to write your own book.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it was quite a challenging one, because it is the falando de música. This one, it's very beautiful.
Yeah,
I love this. It is part of. Actually, I think it. I feel it as the end of all these years lecturing lecturing to the public at Sala São Paulo. It's called Falando de Música. Speaking My program there. Yeah, and I think it is a resume. There is a sort of resume of all these random questions that I was dealing all those years. Actually, I realized a lot of issues that classical music audience has, issues they have, are a very common, the same. And I sort of organize it in 8 lessons. I call it 8 lessons on classical music, which is opportunity to talk about what is classical music, how can we behave at a concert hall, this sort of counterculture, which is to be a classical music audience today. We are, we are not talking about Beyonce, and we're not in mainstream culture. We are countercultural guys listening to this music of 200 years ago. And every chapter I deal with one of those problems, and I'm very, very happy because Todavia, the publisher, Todavia, is helped me to do a very precise. It is not academic, not a. It is very humble to the public, to the reader. It tries to engage it. I try to always try to bring some stories, some narratives that can make it colorful, but it's very precise. All the data, all the information. I try to be sort of scholar in this way, not a stylistic speaking, but starting to be precise and a professional in this way. And I'm happy, very happy, and thank you for calling it, because
you owe me a copy of the book. You owe me a copy of the book so I can read it. I forgot to mention that it's funny, you do so many things. You also write for Estadão, which is a newspaper in Sao Paulo, about classical music a few times a week. You speak on radio and TV about it. It's fantastic, the work you do, and I want to thank you not only for being with us today, but also for sharing your knowledge and making people like me a little more knowledgeable and allowing us to
kind, Alex.
Allowing us to enjoy and to understand a little bit more of the music and the art, which is really fantastic.
Thank you very
now,
much.
now you have your own book, so you're in good company with Copland and Bernstein, who also wrote books on how to enjoy music.
Great. Yes,
Leandro, it's a pleasure to see you.
It's all mine. I hope we meet here again soon.
We will.
And hope we meet personally.
Yeah,
So actually,
as soon as it's possible, hopefully we will be going back and forth again. Thank you again for joining us, and I hold you to it. In the next week or so, we should have a couple of guests, and I want you to join me interviewing them and having this little conversation. Unfortunately, it's very hard to translate the word papo from Portuguese to English,
true. It's not,
which is it's not even a conversation. It's something you have over coffee, and that's why we call this the MusiCafe. It's so nice to enjoy this kind of talk.
Great.
Thank you very much,
Great,
Leandro.
great,
I want
Alex.
to
I
thank
must-
you.
I must thank you.
Don't go. I'm just going to say goodbye to all our audience. We're 50 minutes in. It's been a pleasure seeing you all, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in the near future. Everybody stay safe. And let's think together of how we're going to make this place a little easier and more livable. We have a lot to do. A lot to do. Thank you, Leandro.
Thank you all. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Until next time.